In this video, we're going to be evaluating expressions involving radicals. Now, a common misunderstanding when taking square roots of real numbers is that the square root sign implies both negative and positive roots. This is not correct. The square root sign implies only a positive root. When a negative root is needed, you must use a negative sign with the square root. So we see in this first example the incorrect way. You cannot say that the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. What you can say is that the square root of 4 is 2. And you can also say that the negative square root of 4 is negative 2. So let's go ahead and evaluate some of these and let's see what we get. So for our first problem, it asks us to evaluate the square root of 36. And we know that 6 times 6 is 36, so we're able to say that this answer is 6. Now if we look at letter B, this says negative square root of 36. And we saw from up on top with the purple example that when there's a negative sign out in the front, that means that my negative sign is going to make an appearance in my answer. And since we know that the square root of 36 is 6, I'm able to say that the answer for negative square root of 36 is negative 6. Let's look at a problem that's a little bit more complex. If we look at problem C, it says the cubed root of 125 over 64. Now we know that we are able to split this up. So we can say the cubed root of 125 divided by the cubed root of 64. Now here we can use a calculator to find our answers, but really the cubed root of 125 is a cubed root that you should probably have memorized. So the cubed root of 125 is 5. And the cubed root of 64 is 4. So here we have an answer of 5/4. Let's look at another problem. In problem D, we have the cubed root of negative 32. Now some people would go, oh, you can't do that. There's a negative inside. But we can. And the reason that we can is because it's an odd root. Odd roots are allowed to have negatives on the inside, but even roots are not. So as we do this problem, because we have a negative on the inside with an odd root, we know that a negative sign is going to come out. So what we really want to know now is what is the fifth root of 32? And the fifth root of 32 is 2. Now, the fifth root of 32, because it's a 2, you should probably have this one memorized as well, but if you need to use a calculator to get your answer, that's acceptable too. Let's move on to letter E. So here we have the fourth root of negative 81. So now we have to ask ourselves, gosh, is my root an even or an odd? As we look at the 4, we see, hey, that's an odd root. So that will not give us a real number. So here, we're going to have a couple different things. We have no real solution. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not a solution. It just means that our solution is imaginary. Now, that doesn't mean that it's make-believe. What that means is that when we go to get our answer, we're going to have an I out in front. Or in the back rather. So when we have a negative on the inside of an even fraction, not fraction, radical, we're going to have an I to indicate that it is imaginary. So now we just need to know what is the fourth root of 81. And you can either use your calculator or if you have this one memorized, the fourth root of 81 is 3.